You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 386. That's hard to believe. V. Sandro's favorite podcast, Jeremiah Morrell, joined by executive video producer, audio engineer. He got us on the air today very efficiently. Yeah. Zach Burcham.
Good evening.
Are you being deposed? You're saying the fewest words possible.
It's been a struggle the last couple of weeks. Our programs haven't wanted to cooperate, so it actually just worked on the first try today. So I'm just taking that and running with it.
That's amazing. Our guests today are going to be Rusty and Ken Eckstein. Rusty is a returning guest of the show. Ken, it's his first time. Going to be talking about some RV related stuff in the Indiana economy. Ken has a prestigious role with the RV Dealers Association, or emeritus role, and Rusty is he's our tariff expert. That's what we're gonna assign to you today.
I asked if I should do some research, and he said no, so I didn't. So
no.
Here I am.
I said just wing it. We'll be all right. You're a subject matter expert deep down. So we're gonna talk about some stuff that happened at the State House. We're gonna talk about what Ken was testifying at the Indiana General Assembly for. Talk a little tariff, and then to just blow the top off of it, we're gonna get into some IndyCar stuff at the end because Rusty's in the fantasy league and we want to talk about that. This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you, other times we'll make you laugh, but hopefully you'll always learn something new. We do a 20-minute Patreon bonus for the crowd, and you get that if you're a patron. Patreon.com/BossHogOfLiberty. At any level, you get show notes dropped into a special Facebook group that you get added into. When the show's over, you get the commercial-free Patreon sent directly to you into a private RSS feed, and it's broadcast live in the Facebook group. This week, it was Jelly Bean Night. And everybody's still puckering.
Yep.
And trying to get the pickle out of their mouth, essentially.
True.
Yeah, they're all mad at me. So we're going to move on. It was a great time. Also, if you're a patron at $50 or more a month, you get your name, your business, your thing at the top of the episode. We got to say thanks to John Phillips over at Wetzel Ford in Richmond. You need a new pickup truck. You need you need a Ford Explorer. You want to find a fine used vehicle. Hit up John over there in Richmond. He'll get you taken care of. Blake Reese over at Varsity Outfitters here in Newcastle on State Road 3. All of your custom embroidery, t-shirts, athletic wear. He'll hook you up. Does all my work shirts, our Boss Hog attire. Does a great job with that. And our local RV dealer friend, because Mount Comfort doesn't exist anymore. We got our boy Thomas Oakes over at Walnut Ridge RV here in Newcastle, and he'll hook you up. So get you a nice hideout and get you squared away. Got to say thanks to all of them. And man, my laptop is just telling me it is done. It's angry. It's mad. It wants more hard drive space. I got to delete stuff. I just don't want to delete all those pictures of campers that I got saved. I'm making Rusty laugh, but he won't do it in the microphone, so the podcast crowd won't know it. Let's see. I wanted to start with the State House, the General Assembly, and kind of go with the 10,000-foot view because we've been covering them as the winter has turned into spring. And the big issue that everybody's been talking about, the governor made it a big deal, was property taxes. Everybody's getting ready to get their property tax bill. And on St. Patrick's Day, I think about 500 or 600 people showed up at the State House and they were protesting. The governor was there. Friend of the show, Rob Kendall, was there. Henry County Representative J.D. Prescott was one of the three state representatives that spoke. And it went well, I think. Rob was excited. I think there's mixed reviews on whether or not property taxes are going to get resolved or not, or what's going to happen if we're going to pay less money or not. and how county governments are going to deal with it and city governments are going to deal with the potential changes. But people showed up and they were heard. Zach, did you pay any attention?
Yeah, not really. There's a post on Facebook about it. I saw the rally. Yeah. My whole thing with it is just they love to cut a tax that doesn't affect them, so they're bragging about it, but they don't have to deal with it.
Because the property taxes, that money goes to your local schools and it goes to your local municipalities.
Yeah,
it's not actually state money. They collect it and they send it back out.
Yeah, so it's really easy for them to say, "Look, we're saving you money," but they're like, but then the mayor's got a post that's floating around Facebook about there's ramifications for this, and it's the mayor that has to tell you what's going on, not the governor, because they're not going to tell you. So I saw that there was a rally. I was kind of like, I haven't watched it. I don't watch the news. And social media is just toxic, so I try to avoid discussing on that either. So, yeah.
So on Rob Kendall and Abdul Hakim Shabaz's weekend show, they dropped a podcast, and I was listening to it on my drive back home yesterday. And Rob took exception to the fact that only 3 of the 150 legislators came down to actually hear from folks and to talk to them. And it got me thinking, and I realized that there's a difference between the governor who was just popularly elected and our state representatives and state senators. And I shared with Rob, and it's actually on he put it on his show today. So if you have the show notes, there's a link there. You can listen to hour 1 of the Kendall and Casey show on WIBC. And he talked about this today on the air. But we've gotten to where your General Assembly, the districts are drawn so much to hold incumbents in place that once you have the seat, it's pretty much yours for life. So they don't have to listen or be as responsive as was originally intended. Where the governor actually is a popularly elected person, so everybody in the state has a vote towards what happens. You look at a senator, or our state representatives, state senators here. Once they have the seat, they're good for 15, 20, 30 years if they want to be, until you're done. And then if they want to play the game, they can retire a year before they're done. Somebody else gets appointed, and then you never really have an open seat. So anyway, in that, Rob said this is the greatest. We have the greatest show, Zach, in all of East Central Indiana. Where you go to get the news.
So, of course, in all fairness, that's only if you're a Republican in the state of Indiana.
Well, but there are safe Democrat districts too, right?
Yeah.
So if you're the state representative from Bloomington, they're not trying to carve that out.
Yeah.
So somebody like Representative Matt Pierce, who represents somebody in Monroe County, he's had that job since I was in high school, right? Those seats don't turn over, so the safe blue or the safe red seats, they just sit there, and those folks have the job as long as they want it. They don't intend to go give you a district that's 55-45 or something super competitive. So that the gerrymandering has, in my opinion, has made it where legislators aren't necessarily as interested in the average person's opinion.
Well, and if you look at the districts, I live in the corner of Marion County, Hancock County, and Hamilton County.
Yes, sir.
And if you look at the way the districts are drawn up there, I mean, it's virtually,
it's probably comical.
Oh, yeah. It is. You got little bitty strips that go down and capture one neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's
they are trying to. They're elected officials are choosing their voters, right? And instead of the voters choosing elected officials, every 10 years we redraw the maps and we set them up in a way that works for that neighborhood and or works for those legislators, and they're covered. They're set. It's the way the game's played. So we're in the second year of this set of maps, but I wouldn't expect to see a major change in the state house for a long time. But as somebody that's always been a third party type anyway, my people never win. But I haven't voted for a winner in a presidential election since I think George Bush. So it's been a while. This is the second George Bush. I wasn't allowed to vote the first one. I was only 6. All right. Anyway,
so what's the answer? Term limits?
The answer to that for me would be to have an independent commission draw your maps. Right? Iowa does it. That would be the solution. If you go term limits, yeah, maybe that'll help. But you could still say so. What if you say, hey, you can serve for 10 years. The guy retires at 9 years. You still have a bunch of party officials that say, okay, you know what, we like Rusty and we think he's going to do a good job, so we're going to get Rusty appointed to the thing, and then he by the time he actually has to run for office, you've raised $100,000 from people that want to support the incumbent, and there's never a competitive race. I think the actual thing is
I don't think never, because you have I mean, Braun was not handpicked by the previous governor,
right,
to be the new, and so I mean, and that's what I think term limits do. Is for one thing they do is that they bring fresh blood in, but the other thing is it limits. I mean, how many Republicans on the federal level right now today say I got to support Trump because if I don't, I'm not going to get reelected? And how many Republicans say I'm not running for reelection next time, and they vote their mind instead of vote what the party wants?
Yeah,
and I think that's where the difference comes in.
On the national side, my hope and my expectation is that there's 3.5 years left to the Trump presidency, and he can't run again, Zach. As much as you think they're going to try to,
He's gonna try.
I mean, like,
he can't run.
He can't run again. Yeah, the end is somewhere. It's in sight.
So, but some of these folks aren't going to be on a ballot again. If you're just elected senator now, you're not on the ballot again in the Trump presidency. Some of these folks have to have runway beyond what the Trump years and when they're over. And I think you see that with the Supreme Court starting to fight back a little bit now on some things that are happening where they're speaking their mind and they're saying, hey, we are an institution, not just about one man. And I think that's going to happen. The closer to the end of the Trump term is, I think you're going to start to see people say, hey, I've got to have a political future beyond whatever this 47th presidency is. Where it goes, I don't know.
I'm asking, we have to be at a point, though, where you can just plug like census data into a computer program and just spit you out equal districts.
Totally could. Yeah.
There's no, I mean, like with all the things we can get computers to do, that would seem, I guarantee you what happens is that there's always a party in power and they look at it like, ooh, that doesn't work for us here. Like it cuts Marion County into like whatever. So yeah, this can't be, this is like, oh, this is so hard. No, it's not. AI can do it. Get ChatGPT to do it or something. Like if we can do anything else, why can't we just do that? But yeah, you can see some of these districts are they get really comical. Yeah, like a subdivisions of a little island, and yeah, some of these look like lakes.
We end up with a district with 7 fingers.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm trying to pull up the map, and it's hard because it shows up and it's like it's not here on an image. But there is a district that looks like, if you know, like Patoka Lake. It looks like Patoka Lake. It's got like a little link, and it goes into like the corner of a county and into another county, and then it goes down. It's probably West Lafayette. It's probably whatever Lafayette in that area. So
it's that way up Fishers, Noblesville.
Yeah. The area around Marion County and like that donut district is just like it's a splatter of color because there's so many districts down in there.
Good luck knowing when you move from neighborhood to neighborhood who your stare-up's going to be. You have no clue.
Yeah,
fun stuff. So let's drill down a little bit. Ken, you've been politically active. I know you've traveled to Washington. You've had meetings with senators and folks on behalf of the RV industry, and you were the owner of Mount Comfort RV. You guys both were owners of the Mount Comfort RV in Hancock County, our neighbors to the west. And the dealership sold is it 2 years ago, year and a half ago, something like that?
Year and a half
ago. Rusty's just looks so happy and relieved and retired.
A little more relaxed. Yeah.
A little chill. Don't have to worry about interest rates going higher and floor plan costs getting out of control and
tariffs.
We're going to get to that part. all of the suffering. Tell us what your role is in the industry now, Ken.
Well,
and what kind of interest you take. Rusty's going to load up on jelly beans.
I still got the pickle taste. We got to get rid of the pickle taste.
There's a number of associations in the industry. Indiana has a group called IMHA RVIC, Indiana Manufactured Housing Association, RV Recreational Vehicle Indiana Council. And that basically is a group that represents manufactured housing and the RV industry in Indiana. And it's a natural thing for those two groups to tie together.
Do the motorized people make fun of the double wide people or no?
Not really. It's this is like 60 years old, and 60 years ago, the same people were building RVs as building manufactured housing.
Yep.
And so it was a natural thing then. And what has evolved over the years is it seems like, when the manufactured housing industry is struggling, the RV industry is booming. And then flip the coin.
When the economy goes down,
when the economy goes down, manufactured housing
they
want to
live in a manufactured home.
So the association has it looks at two sides of the same coin. And again, 83% of the RVs manufactured in North America come from the Elkhart area. Well, they have about half of the manufactured housing as well. So it's a natural thing for us to represent both industries. And I've been associated with them for 17, 18 years. I'm currently, my current position is the past president.
Who beat you?
The term limits.
And was it a partisan political election?
I think that the way you get elected over there is you don't show up for a meeting.
Yep, and then you're in charge.
And then they
you have to make sure you go so you don't get elected to anything.
Yeah, that's the whole goal.
You shouldn't have gone to Hawaii.
So yeah, but and we brought up several bills on the RV side this year. We've got a sales tax bill that we've been trying to get through for about 12 years, and we've never gotten it over the finish line. And what it does, it's a reciprocal tax bill where if people from outside Indiana come into Indiana and buy an RV, they have to pay Indiana sales tax and then go back to their home state and fight whether they pay it or not.
Okay.
We have a reciprocal agreement with 41 states. So like in Kentucky, they buy from Kentucky. There's no sales tax. They pay sales tax where they title, where they use the RV. They buy from Michigan. We're supposed to collect Indiana sales tax. Then they have to go back to Michigan where they're going to title and use the RV, and they have to argue with them over it because we don't have a reciprocal agreement with them. So we've been fighting that. Didn't get heard this year because right now they don't want to give up any more taxes, and we're not big enough. So we didn't even get a hearing on that this year.
So Indiana is, I'm going to extrapolate, because 80% of campers are made in Indiana, there's less freight costs in a camper,
right?
If you buy it here. So if somebody would have come to Mount Comfort and bought a camper, they would have had a much lower price than if they had tried to buy it in Texas. So they could come pick it up themselves, but then they're having to fight their home state for taxes, sales tax.
And the classic example is California. California has like a 7% sales tax, but then they got add-on taxes and add-on taxes and add-on taxes. So somebody buys an RV, they'll have to pay 10% to title it in California. Well, before 2001, they could come to Indiana, buy an RV, save thousands of dollars, and take it home and title it.
You were a big Newmar dealer, so if somebody bought an $800,000 Newmar motorhome, then we're talking tens of thousands of dollars in taxes.
But now they want us, the law says we're supposed to collect Indiana sales tax here, and then they have to go home and hope they get credit for it when they get back there. So it's kind of it's bad optics, and it honestly, it costs the RV dealers in Indiana sales because
there's no guarantee at that point.
Well, and when you sit there and you say, okay, it's $10,000 out the door, or it's $10,700 out the door, including tax, that's a different concept. It's kind of like the airlines do. You book a flight for $100 unless you want to put a suitcase on or have a glass of water, have all the add-ons. But the reason they do it because it's work. Well, Indiana had that home court advantage, and in 9 states we really don't because they took it away from us. That bill never got a hearing. The bill that did get a hearing and will be passed into law is
assuming the governor doesn't see this and get upset because it's come through both chambers now, right? I think they still have to agree on some changes they made.
Yeah, and it was I think it was like 97.
It's like 94-0. I think I looked
97 to nothing.
Yeah.
and like 47-1.
Yeah.
So and
somebody didn't get a campaign contribution, and they want you to know about it.
It's honestly, we asked the person that voted against it, and they misunderstood the bill. So they thought that the bill excluded our prohibited Sunday sales of RVs, and it doesn't. But that's why they voted against it. So they weren't paying attention.
So there was a previous news story about this bill that was kind of misinterpreted.
So this is what triggered the invitation to Rusty and Ken to join us. Is that I comb the internet for stories for the show. And one came up and I'm reading it. It's about the RV industry and I'm scrolling. It says Ken Eckstein of Mount Comfort RV. I'm like, oh, well, we know him. And that's what started it. And Rusty's like, yeah, there's like 5 things wrong with this story. And Dad would love to come talk about it. So tell us what, because a lot of the bills that pass through the state house, nobody has any idea what they actually are. And many of them are technical corrections or things for an industry that essentially need maintenance. So that's what this bill is for the RV dealers this year.
Yeah, and I think I want to step back just a minute because I got the microphone. You can't stop me. So
Zach, mute him.
I do have a button for that.
but it's so like 3 or 4 years ago, I'm having a discussion with one of our manufacturers. And it's like, well, I want a written dealer agreement. It says, no, we don't do written dealer agreements in the state of Indiana. I said, what do you mean you don't do a written dealer agreement? You got a wonderful dealer agreement. I've seen it. It's very fair to both sides. I want one and I want it filled out. And so we both have in writing exactly what the rules are. He said, no, we're not going to do it. Well, why won't you do it? Well, because it's not required in Indiana.
So because the guardrails aren't in place, they'll do it in, say, Ohio, but they won't do it in Indiana.
22 states it's required. 22 states, they had a very fair dealer agreement that was negotiated before the dealer took on the product. They signed off on it, and it was in law. They wouldn't.
So just to clarify really quick. So what he means by dealer agreement is, because people might be like, what's a dealer agreement? Why is that important, right? So if you're an RV dealer in the state of Indiana, you could carry, like you said, a Newmar, for example. Newmar's a lot more organized, so they wouldn't do this, but let's just throw it out there. We'll say it would be them. But
you can use my brand. I bought a Salem.
Okay. Well, yeah. So
everybody's got one of those.
Yeah. Well, so and here's the thing, and actually Salem might be one because they also have Wildwood, which is like a clone essentially. It's the same product with a different sticker on it. But the point is you could have an RV dealer that says, hey, I want to carry the Salem product. And they say, great, we want you to buy 25 of these trailers. So now all of a sudden you're, going to put, $500,000 into buying 25 of these trailers, maybe $1 million now at this point. And that's it. Right. So you don't know, like, well, what if if I go out of business, what happens to these trailers? Or what if something happens negative with the trailer and I want to somehow go to the dealer and be like, or the manufacturer and be like, hey, I think you should buy this trailer back. There's nothing spelled out with how to do that. Further, you've invested as a dealership, say $1 million into this product line, and there's nothing that would say that like, Jeremiah says, hey, man, I really want to have my own Salem dealership. And I like where Mount Comfort RV is located. I'm going to start a Salem dealership across the street. And there would be nothing to say that there's no district or there's no way of defining like, hey, this is your territory. Right?
There's nothing to say I'm the only one in this county or at this exit or whatever.
And that's what in most of the better manufacturers would spell that out for you. Some of the manufacturers don't want to because they want to leave it loose, and if they want to change something in the future, they can.
Well, and we, in the 70s, everybody, in the late 70s, there's 22 RV dealers in Marion County. And 22 in Marion County alone. You had over 300 RV manufacturers within a 50-mile radius of Elkhart, Indiana. And it was all done on a handshake. And everything. And it's like
small family businesses.
And we had in Marion County, Fleetwood RV was the largest manufacturer of RVs in 1977. And we had 5 dealers that 4 of them were handling the same product, and one of them was handling a clone. Now, this is in Marion County alone, and again, no agreement.
So that's not, I'm going to show my RV nerdism for a minute. So that's not why they made like a Terry and a Prowler and a Wilderness or whatever to have different brands so that they would have dealers that said, oh, I have the
that's a large part of it. So they could have more dealers.
The Prowler and the Wilderness were both built in Crawfordsville, Indiana, and they were clones. They were exact same things, different colors.
Yeah.
And they had 4 dealers in Marion County. The Terry was built, can't think of the name, is in Ohio, and it was a sister product. It wasn't an exact clone. But yeah, you had 5 dealers in Marion County, and there was nothing that prevented them from adding a 6th. because it was all on a handshake. You say, okay, you got to buy 10 units. You only got 8, so we're going to send 10 of them down the street from you.
And you didn't have a dealer that was large enough to fight back or say, hey, we don't like this necessarily.
Exactly.
Or with the ability to negotiate with them.
And see, and this is where it was at. This is where it is at in Indiana. Is in Indiana, you've got a bully pulpit. So if you're a big dealer and you say, hey, I'm going to stop handling your product, stick it up your nose, that manufacturer's stuck with it because they can't mess with the big dealer. If you're a little guy and the manufacturer says, we like the guy across the street from you, we're going to take the product away from you and give it to the guy across the street, you've got no recourse. You've got nothing in writing. And so again, it becomes a bully pulpit. The big guy wins. And again, in my world, it was like, put it in writing. They said, we don't have to. It's not required in the state of Indiana. So we're not gonna. So my choice is not do business with them or do business the way we did it in the 70s on a handshake,
just
knowing that
hope they don't mess you over.
But you don't want to put your whole brand in and saying, hey, we are the, we'll use it because they don't exist anymore. We are the Fleetwood dealer for Indianapolis. When that could change tomorrow.
Well, and the other thing too is these dealers, these agreements would also benefit the manufacturer. So like one thing that I've actually heard a lot of lately is manufacturers that are actually build a good product, but they have bad dealers, and that bad dealer maybe doesn't prep the unit for a customer. Like when we would sell an RV, we'd spend anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours going through that RV, checking everything on it. And you would get you didn't get everything, but you get most of the problems fixed before the customer ever gets it. In a case that you do have dealers out there that don't do that they basically, here's the keys, have fun. And all of a sudden that customer has tons of problems. They don't know how the RV works. And the manufacturer without an agreement has like no recourse of like, hey, here's the things you need to do when you're selling our product, or, we're going to drop that, you drop you as a dealer. So there's definitely benefits to both sides of it, but in Indiana, they don't require it. So a lot of the larger manufacturers just don't do it.
So that's in the Senate Bill 44 that's advancing through, is that they're now going to require dealer agreements in Indiana.
And my intent was originally just, really have a one-line bill. To be an RV dealer in Indiana, you have to have a written agreement with your manufacturers, with all your manufacturers. And that was my intent. We went to Blake Dorio, senator out of Elkhart. And Blake said, sure, write it up. I'll carry the bill for you. Well, as we go through the process, we ask for RV IAs, the RV Industry Association, the National Association of RV Manufacturers. We asked them for their input and their blessing. And they presented a template that basically gives guidelines for what a proper dealer agreement should be. Now, the unique thing about this is that it was approved by RVDA, the RV Dealer Association, and the RV Industry Association. So it never happened in the car world. Car world dealers and manufacturers fight tooth and neck, argue over everything. These guys came up with a template, a boilerplate agreement that they all agreed on works for the whole industry. So we adapted, make a few changes to it, had to make some changes for Department of Revenue, and to make sure that everything that we weren't.
They need their pound of flesh.
Well, and again, one of the things that the way the bill was written up, tent campers were included as an RV. Tent campers in the state of Indiana are taxed as a cargo trailer. So we don't want to impose additional taxes on somebody that ordered a tent camper.
No, because their manufacturers say that was a $94,000 tent camper, and it's going to cost me $1,000 a year for the next decade.
But we made.
Ask me how I know.
We made adjustments to these to the template so it would fit Indiana, and then when we presented it down at the State House, it was like the main reaction was, we don't understand. It's like, what do you mean you don't understand?
I read the bill. It was a nightmare to understand.
Well, and that's
20 pages
not
long.
Yeah. The bill that I wrote was 3 pages long, and it was very simple. But because when the legislative assistant got a hold of it, the first 6 pages because
they're all dealing with code and referencing things and
because when you say tent camper, on 3 different bills, that means 3 different things. And so it's way more complicated than it should be.
I mean, just even the verbiage used in the RV industry. is confusing to people. Like, it's really interesting to see people who try to separate. I just saw a thing yesterday. It's like, I saw a thing called RV. I thought you could drive an RV. I'm like, RV is just like an all-encompassing term. Like, that's,
it
to
could
me,
be a jet ski.
to me, that's like, honestly, is it a vehicle you're driving for recreation? Sure. I mean, yeah, that's a motor, it could be motorcycles, like, but then like the camper and whatever, like, to me, that's the whole all-encompassing. And then you break it down into motorhomes and fifth wheels, and then your motorhomes break down into different classes. And then you got tent campers, which I'm assuming is like pop-ups.
Well, so yeah, that was the thing. Is so for many years, we got an award for being the number one camping trailer dealer in the state of Indiana, and like, so we had this nice little thing, and you guys are probably like, what's a camping trailer, right? Well, so it turns out like this was one of my big like marketing things I was always struggling with, because of course when you're trying to market RVs online, you have to know the words that people are searching for, right?
Yeah.
And so with what we're calling tent campers, some people call them fold downs. Some people call them pop-up campers, right? So we're popping them up, we're folding them down, but the industry calls them camping trailers. Don't know why.
If you're glass,
nobody's searching for camping trailers. I'll tell you that.
If you're a glass half full guy, it's a pop up. If it's
it's a fold down. It's the end of the weekend.
It's shrinkage. It's sad, and it's
but that's the thing. And
over.
so I mean, that was always my big challenge is which of these keywords am I going after when I'm like trying to market to get these people to come out and buy these campers.
I attempted to come up with clear and concise definitions for every segment of the market, and I thought I nailed it. I really was proud of it. Presented it down to the State House. Dorio loved it. Presented at the State House and go, nope, can't work. And that's why you got the 6 pages of disclaimers, that this refers to this section where the camping trailer is, and this refers to that section.
So with this new bill that is intended to become law, dealers are going to have sales areas, and it also deals with RV shows as well.
And this is, it did. We and a couple of things that we tried to do. Once I realized that my 3-word bill wasn't going to go through, we clarified a lot of issues, and again, we took dealer agreements from our manufacturers, did some wording and make sure it all fit within RVIA's recommendations, and it did. You have to have a defined territory. It doesn't say what that territory is, but you have to define a dealer market area, DMA, and they can't set somebody in that DMA without proving that you are failing as a person or as a dealer. And it does have, if you're in jail or if you're bankrupt, you can't, they can take it away from you, but they can't send somebody in there without like 6 months notice, without a period of time notice. But so you've got a protected territory. One of the things that we run into as an association, we sponsor 6 shows, and there's always arguments over the shows, and
you can't bring that camper because he's bringing that camper.
Yeah, well, and it goes even beyond that, where somebody says,
floor space.
Say we're having a show in Indianapolis, and we say we're not going to take Newmar, and Newmar says, wait a minute, we got to have a product in that show. We say we don't care, we're not going to do it, but it doesn't matter to us. Newmar now, once this law gets signed, they'll have the right to bring in another Newmar dealer. They can call another Newmar dealer and say, hey, will you put a unit in this show because it's giving
the manufacturer some rights within their areas as well.
It does. And again, I think the unique part about this, and the reason that virtually everybody at the State House was astounded by this, is you had manufacturer and dealers, virtually totally agreeing on you had the state association agreeing on it. You had the national manufacturers association agreeing on, and national dealer agreement. All agreeing on that this, and so there's a template now.
So my audience is going to go, okay, so if everybody agrees, why do you need the state to do this?
Well, no, so that's what they actually said to you, right? They said, wait a minute, who's this bill going to piss off?
That question was asked.
Yeah,
and the bottom line is you've got a large manufacturer that controls a large segment of the industry that would not put it in writing in Indiana.
Are they named after a superhero?
Well, if nobody's listening, they're the ones that build Salem.
They're up the river.
It sounds like they provide it just
over in the forest.
It gives each one of them protections as a dealer or as a manufacturer, but also if the manufacturer or the dealer aren't holding up their end of the bargain, it then gives the other party some rights to like rectify it a little bit.
My whole goal with bringing this bill up was to have clarity. And the Sunday sales thing was a muddled mess. We tried to clear that up, make it clear as far as exactly what it's supposed to be.
So as of today, Are dealers allowed to be open on Sundays and sell on Sundays?
We did not change the Sunday sales. In Indiana, you're allowed to sell. You're not allowed to sell a motorized RV on a Sunday.
You can sell a travel trailer.
You can sell a trailer,
or
and there's nothing,
or a camping trailer.
And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with showing motorized,
as long as it doesn't have an engine.
Yeah.
Now
because you can't sell a car on a Sunday. Correct. I'm sure you get wrapped in because
we got pulled into a blue law in 1978 that was set by the RV or by the automobile industry, and our lobbyists back then weren't able to exclude motorhomes from that law. And the reason was back then, you guys are all too young to remember, the custom vans, in the
conversion van I grew up with in the 80s, was also sold at an RV dealer. I'm sure.
and you
Paul Sherry vans or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'm older than you think.
Piqua, Ohio, I think.
I'm from the 80s.
But the custom vans, the car dealers didn't want the RV dealers to be able to sell custom vans on Sunday when they couldn't, so they sucked us into that hill.
We're literally getting killed by vans that had boomerang antennas on the roofs.
Yes, exactly.
We had a guy that this would have been in like 79 that would literally, he would go to work, he would come home, get in his garage with a couple of his drinking buddies, they'd convert a van, then one of them would go door to door saying, want to buy a van, want to buy a van, want to buy a van, until they got to a dealer. I mean, what kind of codes were those built to, but they were cheap and they looked pretty. They had dingleberries on the windows.
Conversion vans were sweet. The Wild West.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was.
It's the Wild West. What about warranties? Y'all are they're changing something with warranties as well?
It's not changing anything. It's clarifying it. It's specifying that the dealers, that the expectation, some of the manufacturers, Winnebago's one. Winnebago will come up and say, okay, if you want to be a Winnebago dealer, you got to stock $50,000 worth of Winnebago parts, and you got to buy $20,000 worth of Winnebago equipment. So
to have in your warehouse to sell your Winnebago fuzzy dice.
Yeah, and they may require you to spend $50,000 on signage. So you got to buy all this stuff from them in order to be the dealer. Now, in Indiana, you buy all that stuff. And Winnebago says, don't want it. You could be stuck with it. Now, Winnebago actually has a very good dealer agreement, so it's all in writing. But what we're doing is requiring everybody to do that. Now, there's conditions in there where if you spend $200,000 getting set up as a Winnebago dealer, and Winnebago without cause says we're going to pull the franchise from you, you've got recourse where they have to buy that stuff back from you.
Yeah.
And again, the recourse was approved by the RV Industry Association and the RV Dealer Association. So that's the most unique thing about this is both sides signed off on this as it's a fair bill.
It sounds like the only people that tick off are people that are doing things they really shouldn't be doing, intentionally or not. Like you're being it sounds like common sense, just like being a good business partner.
Well, and the thing of it is when a guy in the 70s, when a guy's buying 3 RVs and the manufacturer's building 10 a week, that business model served well. Back then, the first guy I worked for, never wrote his contracts until he did the title work. Everything was a handshake. No deposits, no purchase agreements, and no immediate deliveries. It would take 2-3 weeks for him to, because if he had oil changes and air conditioners installed, his deliveries went behind those. So, but again, that business model doesn't work today. Not when you're, like Rusty said, not when you're investing $2 or $3 million. And you got manufacturers expecting to stock 25 units. And again, then the messy part is when the divorce happens, when you break up, everybody says, well, wait a minute, you never told me that that's the way it was going to be. Well, now this bill, they have to state that the rules have to be set up front.
So that's the dealer side. Everybody's going to be happy. We're going to move forward. The governor's probably going to sign it. Like we said anything that's going to derail the bill today. So that's a success story coming out of the State House that people don't hear. And there's a lot of industry cleanup stuff that happens that I wanted to highlight that because this is how this is supposed to work.
Well, and it is, and I think it's something. It's and again, don't ever anybody think that they can't reach out and talk to somebody and get something done, because this literally was. I'm talking to Ron Breimeyer at the RV Indiana Council, the director over there. He says, call Dorio. And call Dorio and say, Dorio, this is what I want done. He says, fine, let's do it. I mean, it was that's how the whole thing started.
You want to help me fix the tax bill, the tax side now for the consumer? I've already got 3
I'll tell you
legislators
though,
on the hook
So you know what
that
though?
have been
I
talking
think
to me about it.
the reason that this was as easy as it's been, and I say easy, it wasn't easy, but like it's going as smoothly as it is because it doesn't involve money.
Right.
There's nothing here that says, hey, we're going to change revenues for the state. Once you say you're going to change revenues for the state, even if it's a positive change, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and right now, Rusty's right. Anything that says tax is a hot potato.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah,
100%. And we've been put on hold till next year. We're gonna get both taxes fixed at the same time. All right, Mr. Tariff expert, Rusty. Nationally, we've had all of these conversations about tariffs. We talked about it on the show for, I guess since about January 20th, we've been talking about tariffs and the changes that have happened. But the tariffs also affect the Indiana economy. Do you guys know what the impact is? The RV manufacturing and sale of RVs in Indiana, is there a billions of dollars that y'all tout?
Yeah. Well, and again, $34 billion is the number that we threw around.
Because it's jobs, obviously, at dealerships. It's jobs in the manufacturing in Michiana.
Yeah. When you look at the trickle down, the manufacturing, the camp, that $34 billion, that includes campgrounds, that includes the dealers, that includes manufacturers, that includes service. But yeah, it's a big number.
It's a huge part of the Indiana economy.
Exactly.
And that's why I was like, this is an industry I want to talk about the tariff side and what's going to happen. There's a good portion of these Indiana-made campers that are getting exported to Canada, right? And so if you live in Ontario, you're probably got
not right now.
No. Well, and see this
you can only patch that old Fleetwood so long, Rusty. We got to replace them.
10% of the RVs manufactured historically, like in the last 10 years, virtually 10% of the RVs manufactured in Indiana go to Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's a big number.
It's a huge deal.
That's a big number.
If we drive down I-75 in this, in October, November, there's a hell of a lot of Ontario plates that are going to Florida, right? You go down to Florida in the wintertime and there's snowbirds there and they're in Canada.
But they're not going to let them in the country now. I just read this the other day about there was an actress from Canada, and like she had, I don't know if it was an expired visa or whatever, but she like literally got detained for like maybe a week or more. They put her like in this like cell at the border. Wild.
I remember seeing a camper at the track one time that had Canadian plates, but what was really funny about it was the big fifth wheel, and the theme of the alcohol delivery for the RV was American Eagle. It had like an eagle with a Star Spangled Banner, like the whole length of this 37-foot fifth wheel, and it was all red, white, and blue, and it's got like Ontario plates. I was like,
that was back when the Canadians liked us.
Yeah, they came down to visit.
It'll come
to the
back
races.
again.
They like us. They don't like our leadership.
I've got Canadian family, right? I was born 2 miles from Canada. So this trade war is, I think we talked about it last week. This is like watching the movie Canadian Bacon. Like it's come to life.
Oh, rest in peace, John Candy.
Yeah.
Yes. Still have Alan Alda though, so we don't know how.
But we're facing, in the RV industry, and what was the peak? 21. We did over 600,000 RVs that we manufactured. And again, from a historical perspective, the RV industry in like 77 did like nearly 400,000, and 400,000 was always like the holy grail. That was the top of the mountain. And we finally broke that in 2006.
And 350,000 were Class C motorhomes that were 22 feet long on Chevy Ram or Chevy
or actually
Dodge and
little 15-foot travel trailers too.
A lot of those too.
The old canned hams.
Well, and we went 600,000 was the 5 and 600,000 is what we did during COVID. Last year and this year it's been closer to 300,000, 325,000. So about half of the peak. And we saw, Rusty, like 50% increase in pricing in 3 years.
So the pricing was astronomical. So we'll go back to Newmar, for example.
Yeah.
So Newmar was always one of the most like reputable we dealt with from the standpoint of we always knew what we were going to get from them. So like if we had a question for them, we usually knew the answer before we asked the question, right? For better or worse. And one of the things we could always depend on with them was they were the only manufacturer that would give us their pricing at the beginning of the model year, and that was their pricing for the year. Okay. every other manufacturer would have like kind of random price increases, right? And they were minimal. They would go up probably 2 or 3% a year, but over the course of the year, you might get a 1% or 0.5% price increase. During the whole like COVID inflation, whatever you want to call that situation, we were getting 2, 3, maybe even 5% price increases every month.
Yeesh.
Because
the market was
because you couldn't
insane.
find aluminum.
Well,
You couldn't find
right. And so
whatever.
everybody was gouging, and the thing is at every level, at the raw materials level, at the supplier level, at the manufacturer level, everything was going up.
and in all fairness, labor costs, the labor price in Elkhart doubled.
Yeah.
And
you're trying to go from 300
because of
units
the
to
demand.
600,000.
we went through a shipping crisis.
Yep.
But to be honest, there was a lot of profit taking as
There
well.
were a lot of people that tried to reset their
But
market.
there was container ships literally turning over in the ocean. We're working with one of our manufacturers, and they're like, yeah, we thought we were going to have this stuff next week, but like when there was this line, because the ports were all jammed up, right?
Yep.
So miles out into the Pacific Ocean, our container ships are just sitting there, and like one of them capsizes, and so they lost like hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands of containers at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. And so it's like, hey, by the way, all this stuff we were going to use to build the RVs was on those containers. So we got to wait another like 3-4 weeks before we can get another container in here.
So there's a lot of imports, is what you're telling me.
There's a lot of imports. Absolutely.
Inputs. Yeah.
So we went through 3 years and saw a 50% price increase. So a $10,000 trailer became a $15,000 trailer. A $100,000 motorhome became a $150,000 motorhome.
Yeah.
Now we go from 600,000 units a year to 300. Now you're trying to put that genie back in the bottle. And I mean, you can't go to a guy that's making $35 an hour and say, look, I want you to take $15 an hour. That doesn't happen.
His healthcare costs didn't go down.
Well, no.
No.
And now the manufacturers are fighting tariffs. These tariffs, if they go through that right now, without the tariffs being in place, they're looking at 6 to 8% increase in their materials. So they're looking, they're trying to cut their margin. They're going to get a 6 to 8% increase in materials. Who's going to pay that?
You're going to sell less campers.
Right.
Well, and this is what's going to happen is the guy that could have bought a camper for $20,000 is now going to pay 23 or 24. The guy that says 23, 24 is too much is not going to buy a camper.
Correct. Or he's going to go buy a used one.
Well, there's a number of reasons why like tariffs in general are not maybe the best idea. But I'll give you an example of a situation a couple years ago. I was out in DC meeting. I won't throw anybody on the bus. I'll say I was meeting with some senators and representatives from Indiana at the time, and we had this discussion because at that particular time we had a tariff on Luan, and it's like now there's a tariff on everything, but at that particular time there's a tariff on Luan. So if you don't know what Luan is, basically it is boards. It's big sheets of like plywood essentially.
Super thin.
They're used all throughout RVs. They're used for walls, floors, cabinets, all kinds of stuff. And so this Luan is not just regular wood. It's made from rainforest wood, but it's made from a specific tree that grows very quickly. So we're not like going to like Brazil and chopping down rainforests. This Luan can only come from Indonesia. So we are getting this Luan from Indonesia, and they put a tariff on it. Because they don't like Indonesia politically, apparently. And as an industry on the manufacturer side, the industry is paying, at that particular time, 2-3 years ago, was paying like between $1 million and $2 million a month in tariffs for this Luan, which of course is just going to go to the price. I mean, they're just going to put it on the price of the RV, and then the manufacturers are going to put it on the price of the RV, and the dealer is going to increase the price of the RV, right?
Right.
And so the discussion we had with our representatives and senators there was, guys, why do we have a tariff on a product that you can't get anywhere else?
There's no competition.
There's no competition.
Yeah,
Exactly.
We can't replace it with spruce.
That's correct. That's correct. And so the answer we got was, well, why don't we make it in the U.S.? And it's like, didn't you just hear that we said it's in these special forests?
We don't have an Indonesian
a certain kind of tree
rainforest
that grows in Indonesia. And
now we know why the imperialism is here.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, maybe now we just say we'll just take Indonesia, right?
We're going to go McKinley on them.
We're going to say,
Canada, Greenland, and Indonesia.
But so then
Solved
the answer was, well, why can't we make it here? Well, because we can only get it from Indonesia. okay, well, isn't there an alternative product? It's like, well, yeah, actually there is. There's a number of alternative products. One's called Asdel. It's that's a brand name, and it's a composite material that's kind of a mixture of like a cardboard or like, I don't know, fiberglass maybe. It's lightweight. It doesn't rot, mold, mildew. It's a great product. The problem is it's like 4 times as expensive. Okay, so it would on a Salem travel trailer, for example, it might, if you were to make that all composite instead of using that Luan, you might add $4,000 or $5,000 to the price of that camper
Instead of a $30,000 camper, it's $35,000.
So you're and that would be the alternative. So I think that's where one of the reasons where we run into big issues with these tariffs is we're just kind of putting blanket tariffs on countries we don't particularly like politically, and it's not taking into account the fact that these are kind of products that we need that work well for us and are priced well. And I mean, I've taken some economics classes, and I feel like that they always talk about like, hey, whoever can do it better and cheaper is the way to go. I feel like there was an old thing about like being on a deserted island and picking coconuts and picking bananas, and whoever's better at picking the bananas should pick the bananas. Whoever's better at picking the coconuts should pick the coconuts, right?
But who picks the dill pickle jelly beans? That's what I want.
You have to subscribe to Patreon to know for sure. I do have a question in the chat. Ron Milford asked, there's a lot of campers and mobile homes sitting in empty lots in northern Indiana. Are they sold already or what? So did the dealers have a bunch of stuff that's just staged waiting to be picked up?
Typically, when you see a lot with like hundreds of RVs in it, those are waiting to be shipped. And again, in the 90s, they would build yard inventories and sell those off. So a dealer could come up and say, I want a green one. They say, we don't have a green one. If you take a blue one, you can have it tomorrow.
Yep.
That went by the wayside 2008 during a downturn. Where everybody only builds orders unit they're pre-sold. So typically those units up there are waiting to be shipped somewhere in the country.
Now, that being said, during the whole COVID boom, there was an incredible amount of shortages.
You just build whatever the hell you could.
And so the problem is say they're building Salem travel trailers, and they're like, well, we're out of air conditioners and we're out of furnaces, we're out of microwaves, so we're not going to stop the line. So we just build them and build them and build them. And at any given time, they might have 1,000 or more of those trailers sitting there that are fully built, but maybe they don't have those items in them. So they're just sitting there waiting. In fact, one time we were mistakenly sent a list that was literally like 15, 16 pages long and had like 100 RVs on each one. And it was a shortage list, like one of the plant supervisors or whatever left in the trailer by accident.
We were driving through Middlebury on 20 up there, and there's a lot full of trailers. And the back window of every one of them is covered with plastic. So again, you had hundreds of trailers that they needed one window.
That's the thing I'm wondering is like,
they couldn't ship.
You're describing a bunch of stuff that just like, there's a hole in a trailer. How do you like, how well are they storing these rigs that have like, because I mean, everything you described is a hole in a wall or a window's missing. Yeah, you need the windows. They're a certain size, or you need the trim for the windows.
And I don't know that's exactly what's going on now, but that certainly was going on, 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
That was happening with cars too. They were like, you talked about trucks were sitting,
chip shortage,
waiting for chips.
Yeah.
And like by the time they started getting chip, but then you run into the thing too, especially where if you're chasing profits, is that if you start to roll through a model year and all of a sudden you have technically a year-old trailer, you're not going to put the parts in a year-old trailer. You're going to prioritize the new trailers because you can charge more for those. Like you have to, and that's, I don't even know what Ford did with the trucks, because they had trucks that were like a year old and needed a chip. And like, they're not going to sell you a 2019.
Probably sold them at Hertz.
Yeah, they probably did. But
No,
Give them a new VIN number.
They actually destroyed hundreds of trucks up in Fort Wayne. Because they reached a point, and I don't know why. Well, 30 years ago, they just flip a new VIN on it and be done with it. But federal government won't let them do that anymore. But they just elected to scrap them out.
Yeah.
And they, part of that, what they could part out and scrap the rest of them.
Yeah.
And that was in Fort Wayne.
COVID was a bizarre time. It'll be interesting in like 20 years for me to tell like my grandkids about how crazy, like just, I had a camper. I'll feel fortunate. I bought 2018 and 2019. And at one point, I'm like, I could trade this thing in. And
do you play the stock market as well as you play your
no, because I could have, because it's still, I'm like, I could have, there was like year and a half, 2 year stint there where like if I wanted to get out of the industry or get out of the business or like the hobby, I could have made money on a trailer that was 2 or 3 years old. But
we did that. And this is the second time that happened. From 1977 to 1981, RV prices doubled. And so if you bought a trailer in like 79, 80, 81, they appreciate it instead of depreciate it. But we had customers, guy comes in, buys a Salem trailer from me, paid $15,000 for it, brand spanking new.
Yep.
It comes in and says, I want to trade it in on a new one. And we put $16,000 in it wholesale. He paid retail $15,000 for it because it was worth $18,000 or $19,000 as a used trailer.
Yeah, because of the inflation and because the supply, we couldn't get it.
Yeah, and we actually did that. And I would say several times in the course of 3 or 4 months where we were doing that, we put more money in it as a used vehicle. It's like being in the Harley business, isn't it?
Well, and I'll tell you, the same time the truck industry,
I know what I have.
The truck industry went nuts too because people were buying campers and needed trucks to tow them, especially like diesels. I knew you saw people on the internet that traded their trucks in and didn't have a new truck ready, but the dealer's like, we'll give you this now to give us the truck because we can sell the truck now. We'll order your new truck. And one guy's like, I'm just not going to camp this year because they gave him enough money for his current truck to have him give it away and not have a vehicle until his new one came in like October.
I did that. We took a truck in on trade, and I was like, well, I kind of like this. I'll drive this for a little while, and I ended up driving it for 2 years. And literally, we traded it in on my wife's Yukon, and they gave me $2,000 more than what we had in it 2 years before.
Yeah,
that.
it was
because it was exactly at that particular time.
And you couldn't sell it on a Sunday, so you were just.
and to your point, Zach, we had people that sold their camper to sit out. Said we're going to sit out a couple years, but we're going to get out of it right now because we know we can make money.
They can make
and my hope is that they did come back to the industry. And that's the thing that scares me about where we're at right now. The pricing. When Rusty and I opened the dealership, we had a Class A motorhome, a 30-foot Class A non-slide motorhome. This was 2006.
I'm going to guess $55,000.
We could sit, our come-on price was $49,999 plus generator.
Yeah.
So we're selling it for $52,000. That same trailer today,
$140.
That $120. You're right on it. You're right on it.
Yeah.
But
and that was the thing is we used to get. I mean, we only started in 2006. So like in reality, this wasn't that long ago. But we literally had Class C motorhomes we could sell for $39,999. And now if you go to the RV shows now, I think $79 or $89 is kind of the starting price for bare bones Class C motorhome. And that's 19 years ago. That's not that long ago.
I can remember working a boat sport and travel show, and we had a fold down for $39,999. I fold down a Class C for $39,999. We were 50 feet away from a half-ton pickup truck for $44,000. A half-ton Ford pickup truck. I mean, but that's how good a value they used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, RVs historically have always been underpriced.
Yeah.
COVID changed that, and like I said, if these tariffs go into effect the way they're going to,
it's going to continue
to go out.
I think the RV industry so there were winners and losers in COVID, and because people weren't comfortable going to Disney or it was closed or whatever, and they couldn't take a cruise, you didn't want to go stay in a hotel or go to a concert. Traveling with a travel trailer, going to a state park, going to a KOA was the path that people could escape. So that's what that industry, everybody moved there. And that's why the units doubled over 3 years. Now people have got them and it's starting to taper down, but you still can't find a campsite. Summit Lake's full every damn weekend here.
Yeah.
It's still straight up full. I had this conversation over the week, or this week with their county commissioner, Steve Dellinger, saying, hey, you all need to get the state. You want to increase tourism here? Get the state to add another loop in Summit Lake, because those are people that are going to come and spend money in this county every weekend.
Yeah,
I think all the campgrounds are that way though. I had multiple friends over the last 4 or 5 years that bought campers, and they're like, "Well, now what do? We can't get any campgrounds." And I think part of the allure to the RV is just being able to hook up to your trailer and just go, right? And with the availability of campgrounds right now, it kind of takes away from that. The guy that says, "Man, I just want to get off work on Friday and just go anywhere. I don't care where. I just want to figure it out." You can't do that anymore. You have to plan.
No, you plan
5,
6 months.
Yeah. You got to say, "Hey, we're going to go on 10 trips this year, and here's where the 10 trips are going to be."
Zach and I have coordinated holidays together for the last 4 years.
Yeah. It's
Of where we going, what we doing, and we're booking it at noon.
Yeah, and you be ready at noon, and so like I still kind of wing it a little bit. You can't wing it. You can wing it like a week out anymore. Like if you're real diligent, I'm pretty good about hopping on the websites and searching, and somebody cancels. And you're just hoping for somebody cancels. But yeah, if you want to go, just go to Prophetstown State Park near Lafayette. It's one of the hottest parks to get into in the state. Good luck. You better be real good and real lucky. And so, yeah, I would kind of wait for that to like taper back a little bit. Not enough that the state parks are hurting, but it would be nice to like jump in and be able to do that a little bit. Yeah, there are a lot of people that are online. I'm like, I used to be able to just throw my stuff in the car and go, and it's harder to do that now.
Now, other than the current stuff we're talking about with the RVs, Mount Comfort RV was also an IndyCar sponsor.
We
had a lot of IndyCar teams.
had some stickers on some Schmidt-Peterson cars back in the day.
Well, let me see. This is the world in Indianapolis. If you're an RV dealer, nobody knows who you are 11 months of the year. In May, you're the favorite guy at Speedway.
I will say, I think Connor Daly gave my phone number to about half the drivers out there. I can tell you, sometime early April every year, like my phone would just start blowing up. And I'd be like, oh, you'll never guess who texted me today. And I'm like, oh, you got my number from Connor. Okay. Sounds good.
Perfect. Perfect.
And the problem, I mean, and we had a lot of fun doing it, but I guess the problem with it is you really don't get anything from it other than getting to have fun, like we got to go out there and hang out and meet a lot of cool people and stuff. But like, for the most part, I mean, these guys all want $200,000 plus RVs, right? And so it's like, okay, well, first off, I don't necessarily want to take a new RV and have these guys like live in it for a month or a month or however long.
Gill it filled with balloons.
Yeah, fill it with those little like beads that inflate in the water,
especially Connor, specifically, who happens to be in a prank war every year.
Yeah,
at the track.
And so the thing is, I mean, we at any given year we had between 10 and 15 RVs out at the track. Which every single one of those, I mean, cost us probably about $1,000 just to get ready for taking it out there. Not to mention the time it takes for us to actually take it out there. And then you have problems come up. It's like, we would get like, oh, my toilet's clogged, right? And it's like, okay, well, what got flushed down it, right? Because there's always something got flushed down it.
The remote. You're missing a remote too, Ken.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing. And so there was the reality of it is nobody ever wanted to pay for anything. It was always like, oh, well, I'll get you like sweet passes or don't you just want to do it because I am who I am, Like it's like, well, not really, but so it was more for fun than anything, I would say, I guess, because
well, and the reality of it is that we had fun doing it. We made a lot of friendships. We probably. I would say like 10 or 12 years we went there and got nothing out of it. One year we did end up selling 3 RVs.
Yeah, in the later years, the name got out there enough that we had some pretty high up people at some of the race teams that were like, hey, I'm looking for, a $500,000 new Mar motorhome,
It took 15 years of struggle to make that first sale. And the
reality of it is it wasn't going to be like a big money sale because they've talked to every new Mar dealer in the country. So you're like, okay, well, let me just make like a little bit of money, right?
Well, but it was fun too. Doug Bowles bought a trailer from us.
I was hoping. I sure hope Doug bought one off of you guys because I know he's got one.
Man, we tried so hard for so long too. Like, I was like, Doug, come on, man. He's like, but they're just so expensive. I'm like, Doug, come on. Do this, Doug. You got this.
And Dave Calabro bought one from us, a nice little trailer. And it's fun going out there. And it's like, they got their little powwow set up, out there with a campfire, drinking wine, and it's like, I know those guys. So,
you look for that Mount Comfort sticker still, I assume, when you go buy a camper.
Oh, yeah.
See if your sticker is on it or the license plate's on there.
Well, we sold... Well, we had 10,000. We probably sold about probably at least 11. I don't know if we got to 12, but we sold at least 11,000 campers out of that store.
That's incredible.
So
at least you guys didn't give
2 to my family.
At least you guys didn't give Connor the
11,002.
There you go.
Year because one year Connor had they filled up the rig with cups of water all over the floor and balloons full of glitter. But that year,
that wasn't us.
No, he had Greg Biffle's former motorhome, and apparently it was a $2 million motorhome, and he was trying to get the glitter out of the carpet. So at least that wasn't your guys'.
No, he had ours when they did the hot tub behind it.
But
at least that stayed outside.
The first year Connor borrowed a motorhome from us, and he was, I mean, he looked like a kid.
He had it when he been like 21 years old, 22 years old.
Cocky, snot-nosed little brat is what he was. And his mom was so kind and so gracious. And it's like, okay, we're ready to pick up the motorhome. She says, give me about 3 hours. I'm cleaning. I mean, now it was one of the funnest things. I feel like I watched him grow up over the years.
Yep.
Because the first time we met him, it was like, you owe me. I'm the hot dog. And he really became gracious and understood the program, and would kiss the babies and shake hands, and again, I suspect at least once he cleaned his own motorhome.
No, actually, the first one we did was probably in 2007 or 2008 with Jacques Lazier, and that was the first one that we loaned a motorhome to, and he was probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Just super nice, super gracious, extremely appreciative. And he was actually one that said, hey, I need this for an extra day because my wife and I want to return this to you nicer than when you gave it to us. And like this thing was like immaculate when it came back.
That's fantastic.
He and his wife cleaned it.
Him and his wife cleaned it
themselves.
And it's like, when people understand, because there's a lot of people that pop up online and they're like, hey, because there's like Airbnb services for campers, and people are like, well, can I do that? I'm like, campers are, and the nicer ones are a little bit more robust for handling this, but for the most part, they're weekend warrior rigs. You can really, if you're just treating it not nicely, you can tear a camper up pretty quickly, pretty obviously, and fast in a hurry. Like,
just by not knowing what you're doing.
Just trying to use it like a normal thing. So for you guys to send that many rigs out there and just hope that like a race car driver who has a team of people that fix most of their mistakes is just going to is pretty nice, because like your awnings are susceptible to damage, and then
when the awnings aren't going out there because those campers are they're so close together.
There's a lot of stuff to mess up.
We would get and we would get legitimate calls. It's like, hey, the 1 year Pagano had a beautiful fifth wheel out there. And he had a dead short. I mean, it was, for some reason, it wasn't blowing the circuit in the RV.
Yeah, it was wild. Like
it was
on the post, you could see it
was
sparking.
blowing like half of the paddock was going out.
But like it was like arching. Like when we opened up the battery compartment, like you could see like
he had if it was his most recent one, it was a legit top shelf fifth wheel.
Well, so
it was nice.
I think this was.
This is probably a loaner before.
This was a loaner.
He actually bought it.
He bought one from us, but I thought that this was a loaner before that. It was actually. I mean, you could see like the electricity jumping across it, like from one to the other, like not what you want to see.
And that was the year he won the 500.
Broke it so bad he had to buy it.
Yeah.
But no, he's bought some very nice fifth wheels over the years. He bought one from us.
He's gotten into that. That's his thing. He does. He posts pictures every once in a while on social media, and it's like he's out with his fifth wheel.
We were talking to his girlfriend that before that, and it was like they were driving somewhere, and the truck broke down. So Chevy was one of the sponsors. So they pulled into a Chevy dealership. They make a couple phone calls. They say, "Take that truck." And they said, "Why would we buy a motorhome when we get free trucks?"
Yeah,
this makes no sense at all.
Free dually diesels. Like he's getting whatever truck he wants. They're just going to give it to him.
That's perfect. Well, and one of my, as we wrap up on that side of it, one of my favorite memories for you guys was that you were on a car once and it was in a crash. And it was with Scott Dixon when he was in the camping world.
It was, and that's still that is like, honestly, like Scott Dixon's a great guy too. I talked to him briefly once, but like, so we were helping Jay Howard, and that was oddly enough, Jay Howard married a good friend of mine growing up, but we were helping him the 1 year, and he was able to put. So the thing that I guess a lot of people don't know is that the drivers really have no control over like what's on their cars. Like, so they sell the space on their car to like a marketing firm, and then the marketing firm sells that space. So like in so many of these cases, I'm like, hey, throw a little 4x6 sticker on the side of the car. They're like, I'm not allowed to do that. And then like what I found out is they've sold the whole space to somebody to sell off, right?
Yep.
So they're like remarketing that space. Jay didn't have that kind of wherewithal at the time. So he was like, yeah, I'll throw your sticker on there. We'll put it like in some like little inconspicuous spot by the wheel or something. But that particular year was when Jay was maybe coming a little slower and got under Dixon, and Dixon went airborne. And there's a lot of famous TV footage. There's a lot of famous photographs. But that car was a full-on Camping World car. And then you could see in the picture like our Mount Comfort RV logo underneath it.
So Mount Comfort took out Camping.
I guess I'm making light of a bad situation.
It was everybody's safe. Everybody's okay.
Everybody's safe, and that's
nobody got
important.
hurt. So
yeah, they both
fine.
walked away, and
Yeah.
even the camera guy, like I think he was okay. But remember that?
Yeah.
The camera guy, like
if folks go look at just Google Scott Dixon Indy 500 crash, and it's the one that comes up.
I mean, literally, it was last. I think it was last year. They had it on like 4 or 5 billboards around 465.
Yeah.
That picture.
Yeah. And eventually Mount Comfort and Camping World made up too. So
Correct.
It worked out fine.
So-
So Rusty, you're also in the Wall Boss Hog of Liberty IndyCar Fantasy League.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me that there's a race this weekend.
We got thermal this weekend. It's been a minute. Did you figure out how to do it? It was different. It's a totally different style. IndyCar changed it up.
It is completely different.
You're like an owner now.
It's a whole new app, and you have to figure out like I mean, there's like salary caps and that sort of thing. So it's completely different. And then the different links of having it's a totally different thing too. To say, am I going to have a guy for 1 week or 5 races or whatever?
Yeah, it's we're all learning together. Chris Spangle was I think there's 42 people in our league, and Chris Spangle won the first week. Co-host Chase Payton was second. So we got some ground to make up. Do you remember where you wound up?
I think I was kind of in the middle of the pack.
Mid-tier. 16 more races to go.
Yeah, I just got to remember to set lineups and stuff.
Yeah, I think you got to choose a favorite driver. Depending upon how many weeks you sign somebody for, you may not have any moves you can make.
Yeah,
it's tough.
When that was
Do you have Connor? Did you choose Connor Daly? Since
I don't have Connor. No,
he's probably listening. He's gonna be upset.
I don't have Connor. I might have him later, but I don't have him now.
All my guys are on 3-week contracts.
It's tough because you got to decide.
I just did it randomly. I just kind of picked. I'm like, I'm not sure about this guy, so I'll have him for a week. And
right.
I'm pretty solid on this guy. And then I guess the money changes every week.
Yeah,
it's like if you set them for like 5 weeks, then maybe you're better off because you're getting them at a discount.
Correct.
But if you set them for 5 weeks and they do poorly,
but when they go
got them cheaper.
When they go off your team, they got to be gone for a week. So then you're like, well, they're going to be really good at Indianapolis, so you don't want to time it wrong, so you can't get them for the Indy 500.
Right, and I didn't put that much.
There's a lot to think about.
Yeah, there is, and you could get really crazy and still be wrong. So like, I'm going to err on the like, hey, these guys seem like this guy normally does good on a road track, so I'll pick him. This guy normally does good on oval, so I'll pick him.
They seem fun. It's much like filling out your NCAA bracket. You sat down in this chair and you were 8-0. Are you still 8-0? I keep trying to put games on in the studio deal. I finally found a men's game.
I was just trying to see who I had on my IndyCar team. So I got Scott McLaughlin, Will Power, Scott Dixon. This is not my lineup. I don't know what this is. I don't know.
You've got a couple days to figure it out. You'll be all right. It's all good. So Purdue made the men's side.
Sounds like Purdue lost today.
And it was a close game until like the last couple minutes, and then it fell the right way. They played High Point College, Zach.
And they almost lost.
And they almost left. I mean, it was like a 4 or 13 seed kind of deal. Do you know where High Point is?
No.
North Carolina. Another one of those North Carolina schools.
Did like Wofford make it too? There's a little.
North Carolina was the last team in.
There's controversy. There's
controversy. Their athletic director is the chairman
on the picking committee.
No, he's chairman of the committee.
He's a chairman of the selection committee,
and allegedly he gets a bonus for them, like $100,000 bonus for North Carolina making the tournament.
He recused himself from the actual vote, Rusty. So there's no impropriety there. Yeah, there's all of those things.
There's a lot of shadiness.
But he stepped out of the room and probably just said, "Hey, everybody, I'll buy dinner with my $100,000 bonus if you pick my team to get in here. Like we're going to eat.
Who wants some new watches?
I got a down payment on a new bar. Ball State ladies basketball made the tournament. Zach,
I heard that.
They're a 12 team. They play tomorrow night, Friday night. But we don't get a lot of big jets in Muncie. I was not in the office yesterday, but I heard the jet flew over our office. It was a big chartered Allegiant plane. Flew right over our office. It came to the Muncie airport. Big commercial jet. I don't think they have a jetway, so they had to load from the ground. So that's the sports news.
That's kind of, you know what though? Stairs up into planes kind of the baller move more than a jetway.
Be like the president. You get
Like private planes don't get jet. Yeah, that's the way to go. That's cool. They got the charter on a plane.
So IndyCar is at thermal, and that's the way they get on and off the planes at Palm Springs. If you look at all the
Hawaii, that's the way you get in now. Hawaii is off the ground.
Some third world country. There's third world places like that top end Palm Springs, California. Final thoughts, Zach Burcham?
For local stuff, the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce, I believe, had their gala over the weekend, and two friends of the show, L&K was a joint winner of, I think, Small Business of the Year, and then my cousin Mary got Entrepreneur of the Year for Beehive Body Company, so that was good for her. She's hustled. She brought that business from Utah when she came back from the Air Force, and she's got a storefront downtown, and she's selling soaps and scrubs. And I know she's got plans to kind of do like they do paint parlor parties kind of thing where you paint. She'll have things where you come in and make soaps and stuff like that. So congratulations to all the people that won that. I think Judy Hubbard got Citizen of the Year, and then I can't think of everybody else, but check it out. Travis
cool.
got that stuff on the Courier Times.
The three finalists for Entrepreneur of the Year are all Boss Hog alum. It was Mike and Teresa from the Trap House
I
across the street.
Super bad for them, and my cause like, man, I like
Justin
and Justin Lohorn
down at Hoosier Auto, and then your cousin Mary from Beehive Body.
Yeah,
it was you guys may win Entrepreneur of the Year next year in Henry County after your visit here. You're in the running. You're a dark horse. You might have to open a storefront.
It is rough.
If you get a dealer agreement with Prowler in Knightstown.
I'll tell you, we used to do a lot with the Henry County Sheriff's Department. Believe it or not, they have a really nice kids camp every year.
Yeah,
we used to loan them RVs and help them out with that for years.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anything else, Zach?
No, I really wish though that I could have gotten on a list for you guys to have just been the guy on call, because I love to go help.
You would have
people.
liked to have gone to repair campers.
Heck yes, especially if it's like somebody clogged their toilet. I'm like, just give me a stick. Like, like 90% of the time, I'm like, because there are people that are like, this is totally frustrating. I'm like,
Zach just wants to look in.
I walk by the motorhome lot all the time. I'm the guy that stops and looks like, who's got this car? Who's got that car? And I can tell you where Pagano is, because one, his fifth wheel stands out. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then two, I can tell
he doesn't get to. He's not usually he's in the lot next to the driver lot.
Yeah,
usually,
but like you see his stuff. I mean, his at least the last manufacturer, his fifth wheel is like one that you have to like be a nerd to know what it is. Yeah, to be like, hey, Zach, can you go check out so and so's rig? I'm like, yeah, I'll do a stick and we'll plug toilet. Like, I can do most repairs. I've owned a camper for like 15 years, and a lot of the stuff's kind of simple. Just like poke around and hit a switch till you figure it out stuff. And it sounds like Pagano's electrical arc. That would have been above my pay grade. But my brother's an electrician. We could have got that straight.
There you go.
But I would love that. I'm curious. One of my things I would love to see at the track sometime, and the closest I got was when we got to the infield camping, but they kept us very contained like animals. It was to just walk around when the track's closed and all the fans are gone, because I imagine that the motorhome lot becomes a much cooler place then. Yeah, but they come out.
They do. They're just out.
They had a pickleball
They had a
pickleball place a couple years ago in the parking lot. So yeah.
So during COVID, they had the time trials were closed. And they had
qualifications.
They had 180 tickets, and Sam Smith, who we had a very good relationship with for 16 years.
This was all top secret, by the way,
at the time. Sam's not a team owner anymore. You're in the clear. They're not going to take his team away from him.
So he says, "You guys want to go out to the track?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, we'll do that." So he gives us these passes. Do you know how weird it is driving into that place? There's probably 1,000 staff, very, very small staff.
Yeah.
But there's only like 200 guests.
So that was the year that they stickered all the bleachers all the way around.
Yep.
And then IU Health said, no, you can't do the race. Right. So
they zip tied seats closed. Yeah. The whole thing.
Oh yeah. They had put thousands and thousands of stickers saying you can sit here, you can't sit here.
I've got it on my cooler
to try to distance it and everything. But yeah, we were two of like less than 200 people who got to sit in the pagoda and watch qualifications. Very cool.
Yeah, we got a story about that too. We talked to Doug Bowles 2 days before the race, and thought he thought everything was locked and loaded. Maybe it was more than 2 days, maybe it was 3 days, but he thought everything was locked and loaded. Had dinner with the guy from IU Health. 10 o'clock the next morning, guy from IU Health pulled the plug. Bowles didn't know about it until he heard it up from the news.
Yeah.
So yeah, bad thing. but it was an incredible way to see the track. It really was.
That was very cool.
Yeah, that was all of the COVID year. Was
What was
surreal.
wild? So it was fully catered, but everything was like shrink wrapped. So you had like go get your like sub sandwich and it was shrink wrapped. You get a chocolate chip cookie, it's shrink wrapped. Everything is individually packaged, right? So you had to go up and just grab it or whatever. Everyone had like masks on and stuff. There might have been there's maybe 200 people in this place. There might have been 100 signs essentially saying this never happened. It was like
NDA.
It was like, we love that you were here today.
You don't know it.
Do not put this on social media. This does not go on social media under any circumstance.
That's fantastic. Before we leave, you guys, I also want to recognize that you've done stuff with Rupert's Kids for years and years and years.
Oh yeah,
and hosted a fantastic event every year. The tennis.
Rupert's
Tuxes and
Tuxes and
Tennies. Has it typically the last Saturday in November. And for anybody that doesn't know it, he runs a nonprofit that takes people out of the prison system and gives them a job, pays for them to recover and puts them back on the street.
Gives them a place to live.
Yeah, gives them. And his people that come out of the prison system in Indiana, there's about a 50% of them end up going back into it. His success rate's over 80%.
Yep.
So yeah,
makes
good
a big
thing.
difference.
Good thing.
Very good. All right. Any final thoughts, Rusty?
I still can taste. Still tasting the jelly
They
bean.
can still taste Patreon.
Oh my goodness.
No show next week. It's spring break. You all will have to go. There's 385 episodes in the back issue. Go pick your favorite one and tell me which one it was. We'll catch you in 2 weeks.